You send a text message to your boss. An hour goes by, no reply,
Oh no.
right? Suddenly, your heart rate spikes, your breathing gets shallow, and your muscles tense up as if you were preparing for actual physical combat.
Yeah, a literal fight.
Exactly. Why does your brain react to a silent phone? The exact same way it reacts to a charging bear. Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. But first, haha, I just have to confess something to you.
Oh boy, here we go.
I mean, as we were prepping today's material, I think we completely fell into the trap of our own topic, didn't we?
We really, really did. I mean, we spent, what, maybe 20 or 25 minutes agonizing over exactly which words to use for that opening hook?
At least 20 minutes.
Right. We were debating sentence structure, swapping out adjectives. We were completely stressing out over whether it was the absolute perfect introduction.
We were literally overthinking our deep dive on the topic of overthinking.
The irony is very real.
It is ridiculous when you take a step back and look at it. But, it perfectly proves how universal this experience is. So, welcome. It is wonderful to have you with us today.
Yes, welcome.
Today, we are keeping our energy bright, our pacing nice and comfortable, and our words crystal clear. Our mission is to unpack a fascinating piece of source material. It's called The Psychology and Physiology of Overthinking, From Brain Loops to Cognitive Freedom.
It is such a good read.
It really is. We are going to look closely at what is literally happening inside your biology when you simply cannot stop worrying.
Right, and we are going to break down the mechanics of why thinking sometimes turns into a massive trap. Because, thinking is normally our greatest evolutionary tool for solving problems.
Right, normally it helps us.
Exactly. But overthinking isn't problem solving at all. It is a loop.
A continuous loop.
Yes, you repeat the exact same thoughts over and over, analyzing every angle, but you never actually arrive at a real solution.
Yeah, you just spin your wheels.
Precisely. So to understand why we get trapped in those loops, we have to transition away from the abstract idea of worrying. We need to look at the hard biological reality of the central nervous system.
Let's go inside the body. Because it isn't just happening in the ether of your mind. It is a highly physical, chemical event.
Very chemical.
Yeah, the text points out that the star of this biological show is a small, almond-shaped structure deep inside the temporal lobe. And it is called the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Right.
Right. Think of the amygdala as your brain's ancient security system. From an evolutionary standpoint, its primary job is to keep you alive.
So it's always looking for danger.
Exactly. Tens of thousands of years ago, if a predator rustled in the bushes, your amygdala sounded the alarm. That way, your body could prepare to survive.
Makes total sense.
But here's the core problem we face today. The amygdala hasn't really updated its software to match the modern world.
Software update failed, haha.
Haha, exactly. It frequently misinterprets modern mental stress as literal physical danger.
So, if I am understanding the mechanism here, the amygdala is basically a hypersensitive smoke detector, like one that cannot tell the difference between a raging forest fire and a slightly burnt piece of toast.
That is a great way to visualize the lack of proportion.
Thank you.
Because a forest fire is a genuine physical threat to your life.
What?
A burnt piece of toast, or say a critical email from a coworker, is just a modern annoyance.
Right. Nobody is dying from an email.
Exactly. But your smoke detector sounds the exact same deafening emergency alarm for both scenarios.
Okay, but I want to push back on that for a second. It sounds good in theory. But why does the body react so extremely to something as small as an unanswered text message?
It is a fair question.
The source text uses that exact example. Or making a tiny typo in a meeting presentation. Why on earth does my nervous system treat a delayed message like a life or death situation? It seems like an incredible waste of biological energy.
It is a massive waste of energy. But evolutionarily speaking, the brain prioritizes survival over efficiency.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the amygdala doesn't process nuance or context. It does not have the capacity to analyze the tone of an email.
That just reacts.
Right. Once it detects a potential threat, even a social one like rejection from your boss, which, by the way, in ancient tribal times meant being kicked out of the group and starving.
Wow, so social rejection used to be fatal.
Exactly. So it bypasses your logical brain entirely. It immediately triggers the fight or flight response by signaling the adrenal glands.
And that is when the chemical floodgates open. The adrenals start pumping cortisol and adrenaline straight into the bloodstream.
Exactly. And you feel that cascade happening in real time. Adrenaline accelerates your heart rate to pump oxygen to your major muscle groups.
Be ready to run.
Right. Your breathing gets shallow and rapid to take in more air. Your digestion literally shuts down.
Right? Digestion shuts down.
Yeah, because your body does not want to waste energy digesting lunch when it thinks it needs to run for its life.
That is wild.
You are chemically prepped for a physical boxing match, even though the threat is completely imaginary.
The threat is just pixels on a screen.
Hmm.
But the tension in our muscles and the exhaustion we feel afterward is very, very real.
Very real.
And because this biological cascade happens in a fraction of a second, the source material emphasizes a critical skill.
Yes, a very important one.
The text says that people must learn to catch oneself.
Yes, to catch oneself.
If you do not realize what is happening, the moment your brain enters this destructive cycle, the chemicals completely take over.
The timing of that intervention is everything. You have to catch oneself right at the onset of the loop.
Before it gets out of control.
Exactly. It is that crucial split-second realization where you notice the physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Maybe your jaw is clenching or your breathing is speeding up.
You just pause.
Right, you consciously pause. If you can catch oneself before the cortisol completely saturates your nervous system, you can halt the physiological stress response.
Before it escalates into a full-blown panic attack.
Precisely.
It is like hearing the very first beep of that smoke detector and immediately running over to fan it with a towel. Like, hey, it is just toast. Stand down.
Uh-huh, exactly. Stand down.
But let's look at the alternative. What happens if we miss that window?
Oh.
Like, what if we do not catch ourselves, the alarm keeps ringing, and our bloodstream is just swimming in cortisol for hours?
That is where things get terrifying, honestly.
Terrifying.
Yes, because cortisol does not just stay in your body, making your heart race. It actually crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wow.
And it alters the way your brain processes information. The chemical state of your body begins to warp your mind's perspective.
So you lose touch with reality a bit.
Right. You stop seeing objective facts, and you start experiencing what psychologists call cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions.
Yeah.
So your actual thought process becomes distorted. It gets twisted out of its normal rational shape by the hormones.
Precisely. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, rational, problem-solving part of your brain behind your forehead, gets suppressed.
It just goes offline.
Exactly. The evolutionary logic is simple. Do not sit around doing complex math to calculate the speed of the charging bear. Just run.
Haha. Math will not save you from a bear.
Right. So logic goes offline, and the emotional centers take the wheel. According to our source, the most common distortion among overthinkers is a phenomenon called magnification.
Oh, magnification. Taking a small, highly manageable issue and instantly escalating it into a catastrophic disaster.
That is the one.
We actually have the perfect idiom for this in English. When someone escalates a situation like this, we say they love to make a mountain out of a molehill.
I love that phrase. To make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yes, we are heavily emphasizing that phrase today. You
Uh-huh.
take this tiny, insignificant bump in the ground, and your chemically distorted brain treats it like an impassable peak.
It is the perfect description of the cognitive distortion at play.
It really is.
You make a minor formatting error on a spreadsheet at work, and suddenly in your mind, you are definitely getting fired.
Oh, yeah.
You won't be able to pay your rent, and your entire future is ruined.
A complete downward spiral.
You completely lose scale and proportion. You make a mountain out of a molehill.
And once you have magnified the threat to that extreme level, it triggers the next major mental block, right?
Right. A state of complete, overwhelming paralysis.
Ah, yes. Analysis paralysis.
An analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
It occurs when your working memory becomes completely overloaded by all the potential catastrophic outcomes.
Too many tabs open.
Exactly. You are trying to analyze so many different moving parts, and you are so intensely afraid of making the wrong move that will trigger the disaster that your cognitive system just crashes.
It totally shuts down.
Yes. You become entirely incapable of making even a simple decision.
I see this constantly. And the text gives some incredibly relatable everyday examples of this.
Oh, definitely.
Think about spending 45 minutes drafting and redrafting a 3-line email.
Yeah.
Because you are terrified, the tone is slightly off.
We have all been there.
Or staring at a restaurant menu for 20 minutes, completely unable to decide what to eat for dinner.
Mm.
You are so worried about making the wrong choice for dinner that you just freeze. That is the literal definition of analysis paralysis.
And here is the really insidious part of that paralysis. Instead of making a choice, any choice, and moving forward, the brain prefers the illusion of problem solving.
An illusion of it, right?
So a person in this paralyzed state chooses to dwell on something.
To dwell on something. Let's unpack the mechanics of
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Why does the brain prefer to dwell instead of just acting?
Because dwelling feels like you are doing work even when you aren't.
That is tricky.
Very. When you dwell on something, you are continuously obsessing over a negative past event or a future uncertainty.
Playing it on an endless loop in your mind.
Exactly. But it is a trap.
Yeah.
As our text points out, to dwell on something is incredibly physically damaging because it acts as a feedback loop for the amygdala.
So you are just re-triggering the alarm.
Yes. By constantly thinking about the threat, you tell the brain the threat is still actively present, which commands the adrenal glands to keep cortisol levels chronically high.
Wow. So the thoughts cause the chemicals, and the chemicals cause the thought.
It is a vicious cycle.
You are trapped in this continuous loop of mental and physical fatigue. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Right.
If dwelling on things keeps our cortisol high and our muscles tense, we desperately need a way to break out of this biological feedback loop.
We absolutely do.
The source material talks about intentional interventions. And the good news relies on a concept called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity is arguably one of the most hopeful concepts in modern neuroscience.
It sounds very scientific, but what does it mean practically?
It simply means that the brain's physical structure and neural pathways are flexible.
They can change.
Exactly. They can adapt and be consciously retrained. If overthinking is a well-worn paved highway in your brain, neuroplasticity means we can literally carve a new path to calm our nervous systems down.
But how do we actually do that in the moment?
That is the tricky part.
Right, because when the cortisol is pumping and the alarm is blaring, telling someone to just carve a new neural pathway is not going to help them.
Haha. No, definitely not.
But the text gives us a fascinating physiological tool, the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique.
Yes. It sounds almost too simple to work, but the underlying biology is rock solid.
Walk us through it.
When you feel the panic loop starting, you force your brain to focus on physical, sensory detail in your immediate environment.
Sensory details.
Right. You look around the room and identify 5 things you can clearly see. Then 4 things you can physically touch.
3 things you can hear.
Exactly. 2 things you can smell and 1 thing you can taste.
Right. And I want to highlight the underlying mechanics here, because it is not just a cute distraction trick.
Not at all.
By actively using your physical senses, like actively searching the room for a blue object or feeling the rough texture of your desk, you are literally forcing electrical signals away from the emotional amygdala.
You are diverting the power.
Exactly. You are routing that electrical energy back into the sensory cortex and the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
You are chemically forcing the logical brain back online.
That is exactly right. The amygdala lives exclusively in the past and the future, obsessing over what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow.
But the senses are right now.
Yes, your physical senses only exist in the present moment. By engaging your eyes and your hands, you prove to your nervous system that there is no immediate physical threat in the room.
You are safe.
You stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which acts as the brakes for your body, and you turn off the alarm.
That makes so much sense. Now, there's another intervention the text suggests that I really love, and it addresses the mental clutter.
Oh, brain dumping.
Yes, brain dumping.
When your brain is looping, it is holding on to all these anxious thoughts because it is terrified of forgetting a potential danger.
Right, it holds on tight.
Brain dumping involves taking a pen and a piece of paper and writing down absolutely everything you are worried about.
Just getting it all out.
Exactly. No filtering, no organizing, no worrying about grammar, just externalizing the thoughts.
It is exactly like having way too many tabs open on your computer's web browser.
I love that analogy.
The computer freezes because the RAM is completely maxed out processing all that background data.
Exactly.
Brain dumping is literally closing those background tabs by saving them onto a physical piece of paper. It frees up your brain's processor so it can function again.
That is a phenomenal analogy. You are transferring the cognitive load from your internal working memory onto an external physical object.
It is so effective.
And the text emphasizes that combining these physical and cognitive exercises is the absolute most efficient way to clear one's mind.
To clear one's mind. It really is the ultimate goal here.
It is, because when you clear one's mind, you are not just magically ignoring your problems.
No, you are resetting.
Right. You are fundamentally resetting the nervous system. You halt the cortisol production, you break the rumination loop, and you create a state of mental peace and clarity.
So you can actually focus.
Exactly. You regain your emotional baseline so you can actually solve problems instead of just panicking about them.
Which brings us full circle. As we promised at the beginning of today's deep dive, we want to make sure the mechanics of this journey really stick.
Yes, repetition is key.
So instead of just reading down a list quickly, let's trace the entire life cycle of a worry. We are going to clearly and slowly review the 5 key concepts we have explored today.
That is a great way to map it out. The life cycle starts when a minor stressor hits, and your brain decides to make a mountain out of a molehill, meaning to exaggerate a minor problem and treat it like a major disaster.
Right. And once you exaggerate that threat, you get trapped in analysis paralysis. That is, the inability to make a decision due to overthinking too many options or outcomes.
And because you freeze, you choose to dwell on something. That means to continuously think or worry about a negative past event for a long time.
But if we intervene early enough, we have to catch oneself, meaning to suddenly become aware that you are engaging in a negative habit or thought pattern.
And when we successfully intercept that signal, we finally manage to clear one's mind, which means to stop worrying and create a state of mental peace and clarity.
It is such a clear roadmap when you lay it out chronologically like that.
It really helps.
But, before we wrap up today, there is a fascinating philosophical implication tucked into the source material that we really need to discuss.
Are you talking about the deeper implications of neuroplasticity?
Yes, because society usually talks about overthinking as if it is a disease
Right.
or a broken, defective system in our brains.
Right, a flaw.
But if neuroplasticity means our brains physically adapt to become highly efficient at whatever we practice the most, does that mean overthinking isn't a weakness at all?
It is a highly provocative question. If every single time you lie awake at 2 in the morning worrying about an email, you are essentially doing reps at the mental gym.
Doing the reps.
Right, then overthinking is actually a highly developed skill.
Exactly. We have accidentally trained ourselves to be elite, Olympic-level overthinkers.
Olympic gold medalists in anxiety.
Hmm.
Seriously. We practiced it every single day for years, so our neural pathways for panic and rumination are incredibly fast, thick, and efficient.
It totally shifts the paradigm. Because if overthinking is just a learned skill rather than a fundamental flaw in your character or a broken brain, it means you are equally capable of learning a completely different skill.
That makes so much sense.
If your brain is that remarkably good at wiring itself for anxiety, it is highly capable of wiring itself for calmness. You just have to start doing reps for a different muscle.
What an incredibly empowering way to look at it. We are not broken. We are just really, really well trained in the wrong sport.
Nicely put.
We just need to practice grounding ourselves and catching our thoughts with the exact same dedication we used to practice worrying.
I could not agree more.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure exploring this with you today.
The pleasure was entirely mine.
Remember, the next time your internal smoke detector goes off over a tiny piece of burnt toast or a delayed text message, just pause.
Just pause. Look around the room. Find 5 things you can clearly see. Take a deep, slow breath. And whatever you do, try not to overthink your very next decision. Take care, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.